Do more by doing less. With me, Charles Alexander, for small business owners, startups, and busy folks. So, look, here's the thing there's this sneaky little time thief lurking around in your pocket. It's not your keys, although I lose those frequently. It's exactly what you think it is. It's this little bad boy right here, our telephonic device. Very quickly, short period of time. I know you're busy. I'm going to break down on how cutting your screen time back, I know, like you do with your teens, could be the smartest business decision you make this year, not to mention for your own health and well being and overall happiness. Let me give you a quick overview of how I'm going to discuss this. First and foremost, we're going to give you three reasons that you have to act right now. And this isn't some false scarcity, it's going to be revealing the kind of issues that you don't even think about that are being caused with your phone right now. Number two, I'm not going to give you a bunch of case studies. They are out there in droves by people who are light years smarter than me with all the degrees and letters after their name. I'm going to give you some real world examples of people that quit and those that didn't. And you're going to get a chance to see who you want to be more like. Next, I'm going to give you five very quick, actionable tips that you can use to start reducing some of that screen time for yourself today. And lastly, if you're up for it, I got a neat little challenge that you can participate in that will help you do that with other people that are in the exact same boat as you and make it fun, actionable, and in just over a 5-day period. Cool? Cool. First, the reason that you got to act right away is that our phones are causing us to lose real time. And I don't know about you, but if you're a little bit like me, I am 48 at the time of recording this. That number of weeks I have left are probably fewer than the ones I have spent on planet Earth. That means I don't have a lot of time to just give away. I've had to start eliminating a lot of things from my life, whether it's those pick your brain sessions or the extra meetings that people invite me to or opportunities to serve. But the main thing is that I've had to cut down on my phone time, and you do too. Let me give you an idea of how much time you're spending on your phone. We always accuse kids, the Gen Z, millennials, blah, blah, blah. But the real problem is Gen Xers and boomers. We spend on average about 4.5 hours per day on our devices. And I know we can try to justify that every way humanly possible. But if you are an iPhone user, you can go to settings and screen time, and then feel free to try to prove me wrong. Most folks can't. So let's think about that in terms of your business, because that's where we like to justify. Well, this is where I've got, this is how I make a living. Look, okay, 4.5 hours, fine. Realistically, I think both of us can assume 90 minutes may make sense. There's some important things you have to do, apps you have to visit, but really, Adam Sandler movies about 90 minutes long, and that's as often as you should be on your phone. So that leaves 3 hours per day. Great. We could, in theory, cut 3 hours a day, and I'm not asking you to. But let me just tell you what that looks like over the course of a long period of time. 3 hours a day times 365 days a year equals right at 1,100 hours. So, what does 1,100 hours sound like in real time? Well, assuming you sleep, and I hope you do, 16, 18 hours a day, 1,100 hours over the course of 1 year is 2 months. We're spending 2 months of every waking moment per year on this little bad boy right here, just scrolling and looking. And that's outside of the hour and a half that you and I just deemed necessary. That's the extra time. That's the time spent on any and all social media apps, notifications, text messages that are infuriating to us, and Googling everything in our head, not to mention those little games we don't admit playing. So the thinking about that even more, every 6 years means that 1 year is spent solely on your phone and nothing else. And that's just if you're saving 3 hours a day. Some folks, gosh, it's much longer than that. So it could really be about, you know, 3 months per year. And if you add that up for the rest of your life, we're, we're not just talking about, if I'm, 6 years, let's say I'm around another, oh, let's give me, how long would be reasonable here? Let's give me 36 more years. Maybe that's reasonable. That means 6 years left. I'm just staring at my phone. All right, sorry, went over the top there. That was just one of the reasons you have to act right now. Another one is this is creating stress and anxiety that you don't need, that you don't want. No one has ever looked up from their phone after doom scrolling and said, "Whew, I just feel refreshed. I am so excited to tackle the day." Virtually every single time you look up from your phone, it is the equivalent of having a brain scramble and a fog. It is not something you're enjoying that much. And the devices are literally created to cause us to come back over and over looking for that next dopamine hit, that next notification, the next seven things you should never do before breakfast. It's the equivalent of this, I think, B.F. Skinner uh, experiment years ago. Cruel thing they did with pigeons. They would put a pellet in a little device, and the pigeon would hit the lever, and the pellet would come out. Great. So the pigeon knew what to do. Then they started batching when the pellets would come out, and it was unpredictable. And the pellets and the pigeons would just hit the lever over and over and over and over and over. Finally, pellets would come out, and then they'd do it again, again, and again, and finally until they broke the lever with their poor beak. This is the same as if you've ever been into a casino and you've passed by all of the slot machines and you see all the blue hairs, excuse the horrible term, the retirees blowing through their 401k, just mashing buttons left and right. They don't know when it's going to come up and hit, and it hits just in time to keep them playing. That's us on the device. That's reason number two. Reason number three is that we are more distracted than ever, and we need focus more than ever. And we like our lives better when it's focused. Our business runs better than it's when it's focused. And unfortunately, we're picking up our phone to the tune of about 144 times per day. That is 144 times too many, and that is the average. If you don't believe me, again, look at your screen time under settings, and you'll be able to see very quickly. Try a little experiment. Put your phone away for an hour, and then kind of see how twitchy you get, and you'll realize that's a problem. So those are the reasons we got to act today. Just some practical examples. I recently taught a workshop like this, and I went around the room and we did a little game. And by game, nobody thought it was fun. But I had everybody go through their settings. We went to screen time, and I started having them had to do a show of hands. All right, who in here is on their phone less than an hour a day? No hands. Who in here is on their phone less than an hour and a half? There was a couple. I was very surprised. Just so happened to be they were also the happiest people that were in that room, and also the I don't know them personally, but I would venture a guess they had the highest level of revenue. And as we went through, there was a correlation. The people who had spent 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, and I didn't make them all dime themselves out, but it was funny because people were more than willing to admit openly right then and there they had an issue. And you could kind of see the folks who had been on their phones the most were the ones that I had the most difficult times connecting with, having a conversation with, and they were the most scattered, most stressed. Revenue level, I didn't have everybody's tax returns with me, but there was a direct correlation. And I could tell story after story. It was just like that. Not too long ago, another example, I had my last or my 4-day work week intensive. We do this in 90 days. Two of my clients saved 24 hours between the two of them, same business, just by going through that exercise of figuring out where their time was going, how much time they spent there, what they were doing there, what result it gave them, if the result was worth the time they spent. And that was something that was very cool. We could literally put pen to paper. Here's the advantages I get of being on, let's say, Instagram 3 hours a day. I get to keep up with folks, find out new recipes. What's the downside? I'm on there 3 hours. I do not feel good. I needed 3 hours to read, rest, go to the gym. The trade-off just didn't make sense. Big win for both of them. My own personal example, golly, when was this? Pre-pandemic, I could be on my phone 2.5, 3 hours a day, and I'm not a big social media guy. When I say I'm on my phone 2.5, 3 hours a day, it is way too much because there's no Facebook use, there's not Instagram use. It is literally just massive amount of text threads that I'm constantly replying to. Text threads I didn't opt in on. Fantasy football use, Googling every dumb thing in my head. And now I've got it down to about an hour and a half per day, which is still too much. Still too much time Googling things, rifling through old photos because I haven't organized them, things like that. Uh, Look, I know that everybody loved years ago, we always loved to say everything was the new smoking. Sitting's the new smoking. And this is the new smoking. I firmly believe that phone use in 20 years from now is going to look like the new smoking. If you don't believe me, think about the last time you saw somebody light up. I did recently. We were at a kids' football game. Funny, not funny, but still, I smell like, oh, something's on fire. And I looked and like somebody's granddad had was on the outside of the fence at a, ball game, just fired up, just smoking away, just almost hoping somebody would ask him ask him about it, and I thought, "Man, that's funny." When I was growing up, that's what everybody did. Now it looks almost bizarre to see somebody light up a cigarette. I firmly believe in the not so distant future, hopefully no more than 10, 20 years, that's what it's gonna be like, when you see somebody walking down the street with their face buried into their phone. So what are some actionable tips that we can get a jump on, for that new smoking? Look, I've already explained this. I'll do it one last time. Go to settings and screen time. If you're an Android user, I think it's settings and digital well being. But check how much time you're on your phone. And you can go back over the past few weeks. It'll tell you what apps you've been on. So here's what I would like to see us do: set an attainable goal. Don't say, I'm going to get down to an hour and a half like Charles. If you're at 5 hours, don't do that. That's like saying I haven't been in the gym for 5 years, but I'm going to suddenly go in for 90-minute workouts every day. Just make it a goal to cut your phone time. Let's be a little ambitious by 25%. So that's the first thing. You've got to identify how much time you're on your phone. And then what's step number 2 right there? Set some limits. And by limits, I mean literally set them. You can go in and set app limits for things you think you're on too much. If you're an adult and you're on TikTok 3 hours a day, that's too much. Other social media apps, just other, you're getting way too many texts from people that aren't urgent. You can set limits right there. Do it just like you do for your kids. Step number 3, I've gone so far as to delete apps, all like tons of apps. Let's say you're on Facebook way too much and it's just too easy to use. Delete the app. Now, that doesn't mean you deleted your account. If you really want it back, you can go into the App Store and re download it. But that extra friction might give you a little freedom in doing so. And folks, I'm not talking about forever. I'm talking about like a 1 week experiment. So delete several apps that you are too addicted to using, knowing you can always go back and add it. Turn off some notifications. You can also do that under settings and notifications, things that you see pop up over and over. First of all, if you have the news that is auto popping up all the time, turn that off. That is making you, me, and everybody else crazy. For me, I've got all the notifications turned off, minus a few from my text messages and reminders in my calendar. The text messages, virtually every thread is muted, minus my kids and my wife. And that even means some of my good friends that are out there. It doesn't mean I won't talk to them. It doesn't mean once in a blue moon I might not miss something that is quote unquote important. But as I have told people, if it's friggin' important, don't text it. That means it's not important. Lastly, have a plan for when you set this goal. As in, don't say I'm going to cut it by 25%. And then when you get that itch, that urge to pick it up, what else could you do when that habit starts to take over? For me, for a while, I looked crazy, but I did push-ups. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I got a little jacked there too. Or go, if you feel the urge to pick it up and you're not going to keep working on whatever project you have, go talk to a friend. Go take a little walk outside, but have a plan to do something else other than to pick that phone up. So check your screen time, set some limits, create a goal, delete some apps, turn off some notifications, and then have a plan. Look, if you're around my age and you ignore this, it's not a question of, well, in theory, I'm telling you, you are cutting off 6 to 8 years of your life. It's not ambiguous. It's true. It's a fact. But if you do this, you'll get your focus back and your sanity back. So, what do you do next? I'm running a short challenge, whatever platform you're catching this today, podcast, LinkedIn Live. I'm going to start it here at the end of the month. I'm going to put information, whether it's in the show notes or the comments. 5-day break the phone habit challenge. I want you to participate with me. We're going to decrease the phone dependence and decrease the loss of your freedom together.